veteran human took his drunk boss home. What she said the next morning left him speechless. Jack Miller leaned against the metal railing of the observation deck, watching the stars stretch into long lines as Titani's station slowly rotated above the blue and green marble of Earth. He had served in the military for over 15 years, had been in skirmishes with pirates and smugglers in deep space, and had learned to stay calm when alarms blared. Yet tonight, in the middle of the orbital station's quiet hum, he felt something unusual, a mix of anticipation and fatigue that he could not shake. The station was almost empty. Most of the crew had left for the night, either in their quarters or down in the recreation hall. Jack had been finishing routine checks of the outer hull, scanning for any minor faults that might threaten the station's integrity. It was tedious work, but necessary. A scratch on a hull panel could turn into a major problem in hours if left unnoticed, especially on a station orbiting at thousands of kilometers above Earth. Jack checked the readings on his wrist display again. All systems appeared normal, the oxygen levels stable, the power flow smooth. He exhaled slowly and leaned back. Tonight, nothing extraordinary seemed to be happening. That is, until he heard the high-pitched laughter echoing down the corridor. "Not again," Jack muttered. He recognized that laugh anywhere. It belonged to Linda Harper, his boss, the woman who managed the station's civilian and administrative operations. She had a reputation for being brilliant, decisive, and extremely difficult to work with. But she also had another side, a side that loved to drink and enjoy herself, especially when the stress of managing hundreds of humans, aliens, and robotic staff weighed on her. Jack turned and saw her staggering slightly as she exited the recreation hall. Her normally impeccable uniform was wrinkled, her hair slightly disheveled, and her high-heeled boots clicked unevenly on the metal floor. In one hand, she held a glass of some reddish liquid, the glow of the overhead lights reflecting on the liquid like tiny stars. "Linda," Jack called softly, "maybe you should sit down for a moment." She laughed, tilting the glass slightly, spilling a few drops. "Sit. Jack, it's a perfect night for a walk. Come with me," she said, trying to hook her arm around his shoulder. Her balance was unsteady and Jack quickly stepped closer to prevent her from falling. "No," he said firmly, gently guiding her away from the wall. "You've had enough. I'll take you back to your quarters." She frowned, blinking a little, trying to focus. "Oh, you're always so serious, Jack. Always serious," Jack sighed. He had dealt with drunken crew members before, but he had never had to escort his boss home. It was an unusual situation, but he didn't hesitate. Protecting people, no matter who they were, was part of his job. He motioned for her to follow him. She swayed slightly but eventually obeyed, leaning on him for support. As they walked down the dimly lit corridors, Jack's senses were alert. The hum of the station was normal, but he noticed subtle vibrations in the walls. Tiny energy fluctuations that most people would never notice. He touched a panel with the back of his hand and felt a faint tingle. Someone or something had interfaced with the station's energy grid. Nothing dangerous yet, but unusual. He glanced down at Linda. She had closed her eyes for a moment, tilting her head back against the wall. "You always on alert," she murmured. "Maybe you worry too much." "I'm not worrying," Jack said quietly. "I'm paying attention. There's a difference." Linda didn't respond. She leaned against him and he supported her weight easily. His training kicked in automatically. He adjusted his grip, moving her closer to his side, keeping her steady. Every step had to be careful. One wrong move and she could slip, or worse, they could bump into some equipment that might be dangerous for both of them. As they walked, Jack observed the small details others might miss. A faint shadow moved across the maintenance corridor, a reflection of the station's lighting, most likely. A panel that should have been flat was slightly misaligned. Tiny sparks flickered inside a junction box. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to make him alert. He had learned long ago that small problems often became big problems in space if ignored. "Jack," Linda said suddenly, her voice low, slightly slurred. "Do you ever think humans are too small for all this?" He blinked. "Too small?" "Yeah, for space, for all the stars, for everything out there." She laughed softly, then coughed, covering her mouth with her hand. Jack kept silent, letting her speak. He had learned that when people were drunk, it was better to listen rather than argue. But inside, his mind was scanning. Energy fluctuations, sparks, misaligned panels. He had seen signs like these in military missions before. Usually they were minor, but sometimes they led to ambushes, sabotage, or accidents. They reached a corner near the docking bay. Jack slowed down, observing the hallway with a trained eye. The shadows seemed to move differently here. The lights flickered briefly, then stabilized. His instincts told him something was not normal, but he also had to focus on his immediate responsibility, getting Linda safely home. "Almost there," he whispered. "Just a little further." Linda leaned on him, whispering something incoherent. He chuckled softly. Her normally sharp mind was clouded tonight, but her loyalty and dedication were evident even in her drunken state. She trusted him, and that trust gave him responsibility, not just for her, but for the station and everyone aboard. Jack slowed as they approached the stairwell to her quarters. He had to make sure she wouldn't stumble. The station's gravity systems were stable, but even a small misstep could cause a fall. He guided her carefully, feeling her weight shift slightly with every step. Suddenly, a soft alarm sounded from a nearby console. Jack froze. The alarm was faint, almost imperceptible, but he heard it. He moved closer, scanning the console. A minor power surge in the station's energy grid had triggered it. Nothing dangerous yet, but it explained the tiny tingle he had felt on the panel earlier. "Stay close," he said, gripping Linda gently. "We need to move quickly but carefully." Linda looked up at him with bleary eyes. Why are you always so calm?" "Because panicking doesn't help anyone," he replied. "And someone has to notice things before they become a problem." They continued down the corridor, the alarm fading behind them. Jack's eyes kept scanning, taking in every detail. The flicker of the lights, the subtle vibrations, the slight misalignment of panels. Even in a situation that seemed ordinary, a drunken boss being escorted home, he could not afford to relax. Finally, they reached her quarters. Jack carefully guided Linda inside, ensuring she sat down safely on her couch. She sighed, closing her eyes, looking almost peaceful for the first time that night. "Thank you, Jack," she murmured. I don't know what I'd do without you sometimes." Jack nodded, smiling faintly. "Just doing my job, ma'am." He stepped back, keeping one eye on the room's monitors and one on Linda. Even as she drifted into sleep, his mind raced. The energy readings, the subtle anomalies, nothing seemed accidental. Someone or something had been tampering with the station. Perhaps it was aliens, perhaps an internal error, or perhaps something more. Whatever it was, Jack knew he could not ignore it. For the next hour he stayed nearby, moving silently around her quarters, checking every sensor and console. The station was quiet now, the hum almost soothing, but Jack's mind never rested. He traced the energy readings to a small interface panel near the wall, hidden behind a decorative panel. His hand hovered over it. Whoever had tampered with it had not accounted for humans noticing subtle irregularities. Jack smiled faintly. Humans were adaptable, unpredictable, and observant in ways no automated system could fully measure. And that was why he, a veteran soldier, was still standing while countless other beings, more advanced and precise, could not detect what he noticed. Hours passed quietly. Linda slept, unaware of the full danger she had narrowly avoided. Jack remained vigilant, pacing the room silently, occasionally glancing out at the stars through the observation window. Earth looked peaceful from this height, a calm blue and green sphere, yet Jack knew that danger often came disguised as peace. By the time dawn approached in the station's orbit, the energy readings had stabilized. Whatever had caused the minor fluctuations was gone or had retreated. Jack allowed himself a moment to sit down, exhausted. His hands rested on his knees, his eyes tracing the slow rotations of the planets below. He thought about humans and their place in the universe. Small, fragile, yet remarkable, adaptable, resilient, observant, traits that often went unnoticed by others but traits that could make the difference between life and death. As he watched the sunlight slowly touch the surface of Earth, Jack felt a quiet pride. Tonight had been a simple task, escort his boss safely home. But it had also reminded him why humans were indispensable in the vast, cold reaches of space. And somewhere in the station's shadows, unnoticed, faint energy pulses flickered once more. Jack noticed them immediately. He smiled faintly, standing up. The night might have been over, but the work was never finished. The next morning, the first light of Titani's station filtered through the observation windows, casting soft golden streaks across the metal floors. Jack Miller had barely slept. He sat in a quiet corner of the lounge, sipping lukewarm coffee from a metal cup, while keeping an eye on the station's monitors. He had checked every sensor again before resting, and now wanted to make sure the readings remained normal. Nothing unusual had appeared overnight, but Jack knew better than to trust appearances. The station hummed with life as the day shift arrived. Crew members moved quickly along the corridors, carrying tools, reports, and maintenance equipment. Robots glided silently across floors, delivering supplies. Aliens of different species mingled in the common areas, their voices low and strange, each one following their own protocols. To an outsider, it looked like a perfectly normal day. But Jack noticed small things, the way a power conduit flickered when a robot passed, or the way an alien paused slightly too long at a junction. Subtle, almost invisible signs that something was not quite right. Jack's attention snapped when a familiar voice called from the doorway. "Jack, are you awake?" Linda Harper stood there, wearing her normal professional uniform. Her hair was neatly tied back and her eyes were clear and alert. She looked nothing like the disoriented woman from last night. Jack stood quickly, almost spilling his coffee. "Morning, ma'am," he said, setting the cup down. "Sleep well," Linda smiled, a hint of amusement in her eyes. "Better than I expected." You took good care of me." She paused, her gaze steady. "More than I realized, actually." Jack shrugged, unsure how to respond. It was nothing, just routine. He gestured vaguely at the room. "You're safe, that's what matters." Linda stepped closer, her expression changing from casual to serious. "Jack, about last night, I saw what you did. The way you noticed the energy spikes, the flickers in the panels, you reacted immediately, calmly, without hesitation." Jack blinked, surprised. "You watched me." "I did," she said. "Through the station's monitoring systems. I wanted to see if you were truly capable of handling emergencies. Not just any emergencies, but ones no one else might notice. And you passed, Jack. More than that, you impressed me." Jack felt a strange warmth in his chest. Praise from Linda Harper was rare, respect from her even rarer. He had always been a soldier, trained to do his job without expectation of recognition. But still, hearing her words felt important. "Thanks," he said simply. He didn't know what else to say. Linda nodded. "We need to talk, but not here. Let's walk." Jack followed her through the quiet corridors. He noted again the small things others ignored. The way the light flickered near the junction box he had checked last night, the faint hum of energy in the walls. He touched the panel casually, feeling the same subtle pulse. Someone had left it alone now, but he knew better than to assume the threat was gone. Linda led him to a small balcony overlooking the docking bay. Ships of various designs were docked, their crews moving with purpose. Beyond the bay, Earth rotated slowly beneath the station, blue oceans and white clouds stretching as far as the eye could see. "I need to be honest with you, Jack," Linda said, her voice low, serious. "The anomalies you noticed last night, they're not normal. The station hasn't been tampered with in years, but someone or something is interfering, and it's subtle, almost impossible to detect if you're not paying attention." Jack nodded slowly. "I noticed. Minor fluctuations, small sparks, misaligned panels. Nothing dangerous yet, but enough to make me alert. I think it's deliberate." Linda's eyes widened slightly. "Exactly. That's why I need your help. I need someone who notices things others don't. Someone who can react before small problems become disasters. And Jack, that someone is you." He felt a mix of pride and unease. This was more responsibility than he usually carried, but he knew he was capable. He had faced far worse situations in his military career. But this was different. There was no immediate danger, only subtle signs of something lurking in the shadows, something that required patience and observation. "Do you have any idea what it could be?" Jack asked. Linda shook her head. "Not yet. But it doesn't match any known patterns, alien or human. It's clever, hidden, and patient. That's why I need you. Your instincts, your training, your ability to read the small details, those are exactly what's required." Jack thought about last night. He had noticed the slight misalignment in the panels, the energy pulses, the shadow flickers. No one else would have even seen them. Humans often underestimated how much a trained human could perceive in situations that seemed normal. "I'll do it," he said finally. "I'll investigate, but I'll need access to the full monitoring system and the engineering logs from the past few weeks. If someone is tampering with the station, I need every clue." Linda smiled faintly. "Already done. I figured you'd ask. I also assigned 2 junior officers to assist you. Nothing complicated, just to help with monitoring and data collection. I didn't want to bring too many people into this until we know what we're dealing with." Jack nodded, his mind already racing through possibilities. He started listing out all the areas he would check first: power grids, life support conduits, sensor arrays, docking bay controls, and communication channels. Even a small interference in any one system could lead to a cascade of problems. "Let's start with the monitoring room," Linda suggested. "I want you to see everything we've observed so far. Some of the patterns are subtle. Even I missed them until you pointed out the anomalies last night." The monitoring room was quiet, filled with soft green and blue lights from the banks of screens lining the walls. Jack's eyes immediately scanned each display, noticing patterns in the energy flows, power usage, and sensor data. Some readings seemed normal, some were irregular, and a few were just faint enough to be easily overlooked. Jack pulled up logs from the past week. There were tiny inconsistencies, brief spikes in energy consumption, systems restarting for no reason, communications slightly delayed. Each one alone might be dismissed, but together they formed a trail. "Someone is testing the station," Jack said aloud. "Probing for weaknesses, trying to see how far they can interfere without being noticed." Linda nodded. "That's what worries me. Whoever or whatever it is, they are patient, strategic. They might not strike for days or weeks, but when they do, it could be catastrophic." Jack leaned back, thinking. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy for being fragile. Yet, it was often human adaptability, intuition, and quick thinking that allowed them to survive situations far beyond their expected abilities. He realized that this was one of those times. The subtlety of the threat meant brute force or speed wouldn't work. Only careful observation, analysis, and instinct could reveal it. "Do you want me to take the night shift too?" he asked. "I can monitor the systems while most of the crew sleeps. If something happens, I'll notice it first." Linda hesitated. "I think that's wise, but don't overwork yourself, Jack. Even the most alert soldier needs rest. We need you at full capacity when this escalates." Jack smiled faintly. "I know, don't worry, I can handle it." Over the next several hours, Jack moved systematically through the station. He inspected power conduits, life support systems, and communication channels. He checked sensor calibrations, ran diagnostics on the monitoring system, and compared logs from multiple sources. Every small discrepancy, every fluctuation was cataloged. By mid-afternoon, he had identified several unusual patterns. Tiny energy spikes occurred near the docking bay when ships arrived. Life support systems briefly dropped in efficiency when certain doors opened. Communications between alien crew members and the main console sometimes delayed by milliseconds. Each anomaly was minor, but Jack's instincts told him they were connected. He returned to the observation deck, taking a deep breath. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the station, peaceful and still. Yet the anomalies reminded him that space was never truly quiet. There was always something, unknown, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous. Linda appeared beside him again. "Any progress?" she asked. Jack nodded. "Yes, I've identified patterns in the anomalies. Someone or something is testing the station. They are probing systems one by one, waiting to see what can be exploited. But they made a mistake. They underestimated humans. They didn't expect someone to notice subtle inconsistencies and link them together." Linda looked impressed. "I always suspected humans were adaptable, but seeing it in action, it's remarkable." Jack smiled faintly. "We're resilient. That's why we survive. That's why humans always find a way, even when faced with challenges far beyond what others think we can handle." Linda remained quiet for a moment, watching him. "Jack, I think you're going to change the way this station operates. I think you're going to change the way humans are seen in the galaxy." Jack didn't respond immediately. He wasn't sure how to react. Praise and recognition were rare for him, especially from someone like Linda, but he felt a quiet determination rising inside him. Whatever this subtle threat was, he would find it. Humans had survived worse, adapted faster, and overcome challenges others considered impossible. This would be no different. As the station's artificial sun moved across the observation deck, Jack set to work again. Monitors, logs, energy conduits, every system became part of his focus. Hours passed, the hum of the station a steady background noise. Every small spike, flicker, and misalignment was noted. He was building a map of the threat, one small anomaly at a time. By the time evening arrived, Jack had a clearer picture. The anomalies were deliberate, precise, and patient. Whoever was behind them was intelligent and cautious. But they had overlooked one thing: the human ability to connect the dots, to notice the details that others missed, and to act before small problems became disasters. Jack leaned back, rubbing his eyes. He was tired but alert. He had a plan forming in his mind: how to track the anomalies, how to anticipate the next steps, and how to protect the station from whatever or whoever was testing it. He looked at Linda, who had been observing quietly. She gave him a small nod of approval. "You're ready," she said softly, "and I think the station is lucky to have you." Jack didn't respond. He knew this was just the beginning, but he also knew one thing clearly: humans were underestimated in the galaxy, and underestimated humans could do extraordinary things. Tonight he would stay vigilant. He would watch, analyze, and act, and when the threat revealed itself fully, he would be ready. Jack Miller moved through the corridors of Titani's station with careful steps. The subtle hum of the engines beneath the metal floors was familiar, almost comforting, but he knew that tonight it carried a hidden message. Small anomalies had persisted through the day, minor fluctuations that most people would ignore. But to Jack, they formed a pattern, one that spoke of intelligence, patience, and planning. He carried a small tablet in his hand, scanning energy readings and system logs. The life support systems were stable, but small variations in power usage hinted at interference. Jack paused at a corner junction and noticed the lights flicker for a fraction of a second. He had seen this exact flicker twice before today. Someone, or something, was testing him, probing the station's weaknesses, and he could feel it. Jack reached the monitoring room where two junior officers were already at work. Karen, a young human technician, glanced up from her console. "Evening, Jack. The readings look normal now," she said. Jack shook his head. "Not normal. There's still interference. Look closely at the life support logs from the past 3 hours. The oxygen flow dips by a fraction of a percent every 30 minutes. Nothing dangerous, but it shouldn't be happening. Someone is manipulating the system." The other officer, a quiet alien named Voro, tilted his head. "You mean an external presence, a hidden agent?" Jack nodded. "Either that or an intelligent program. Either way, it's deliberate. Someone is testing the station, probing for weaknesses." Karen frowned. "But why?" "This station is just a civilian research hub. It doesn't have weapons or military assets." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Exactly. That's why it's the perfect target. Whoever is doing this wants to study our systems quietly without alerting anyone. They think humans won't notice. They underestimate us." Voro's many eyes blinked rapidly. "Underestimate humans, that is a mistake." Jack smiled faintly. "You said it. Humans survive where others fail. We notice what others ignore, we adapt when situations change, and we act when others hesitate." He tapped on his tablet. "Tonight, we'll find out who's behind this, and we'll make sure they know humans are not easy to fool." The first step was simple: observation. Jack divided the station's systems into sectors, assigning Karen and Voro specific areas to monitor while he moved through the corridors. Every junction, corridor, and maintenance bay had to be checked. Every sensor had to be recalibrated. Every log cross-referenced. As Jack walked through the docking bay, he noticed the energy fluctuations became slightly stronger near the main airlock. He crouched and examined the maintenance panels along the wall. A faint, almost imperceptible pulse ran through the conduits. He reached out and touched the panel. The pulse was subtle, but it was deliberate. He straightened, scanning the area. Docked ships rested quietly, their engines off. Crew members moved about, unaware of the hidden signals pulsing through the station. Jack's hand moved to his communicator. "Karen, Voro, focus on the docking bay sector. Something is happening there. I've detected unusual energy pulses in the maintenance conduits." Karen's voice came through quickly. "Copy that, Jack. I'm checking sensor logs." "Voro is recalibrating the power conduits." Jack nodded, moving along the corridor. He felt a strange satisfaction in these tasks. To others, it would seem tedious, almost boring. But to him, each anomaly was a clue. Each flicker, each fluctuation was a part of a puzzle. And humans had a way of seeing the puzzle as a whole, even when others only noticed fragments. He paused near the communications hub, observing the consoles. Something unusual caught his eye. The alien communication lines were active, but there was a subtle delay in the signal transmission. He traced the delay through the hub, following it along conduits, until he reached a maintenance access panel. He opened it carefully, revealing a small, hidden device connected to the station's internal network. Jack's eyes narrowed. It was tiny, almost invisible to anyone not looking for it. A clever piece of technology designed to monitor, interfere, and report. Whoever installed it knew how to avoid detection by normal security protocols, but they had not accounted for a human noticing the faint energy pulse it emitted. He studied the device, recognizing its potential threat. It could manipulate systems, disrupt life support, and even interfere with docking procedures. But right now it was quiet, observing, waiting. Jack covered the device and called Karen and Voro. "I found something," he said. "A hidden monitoring device. It's clever, but we can neutralize it. Prepare a containment unit and stand by for extraction." Karen's voice sounded nervous but determined. "Understood. Containment unit is ready." Jack carefully disconnected the device, ensuring it didn't trigger any alarms or defensive mechanisms. He handed it to Voro, who secured it in the containment unit. "Good work," Jack said. "This proves it. Someone is probing the station quietly." They want information, but they don't want to be noticed. They didn't expect humans to detect it. Varro blinked rapidly. Your instincts are remarkable, human. They are precise and efficient. Jack smiled faintly. It's what humans do. We adapt. We observe. We act when needed. And we don't give up. Once the device was secured, Jack returned to the monitoring room. He checked the system logs and cross-referenced them with the device's activity. Patterns began to emerge, subtle, repeated attempts to access life support controls, energy grids, and communication lines. Each attempt was carefully timed, designed to avoid detection. Linda Harper appeared at the door, her expression serious. "Jack, any progress?" Jack nodded. "Yes, we found a monitoring device. Whoever put it here is intelligent, patient, and careful, but they underestimated humans. They didn't expect someone to notice the faint energy signals it emitted." Linda's eyes widened slightly. "And now?" "Now we track the patterns," Jack said. "We find out where the signals came from, who sent them, and why. We prepare for any attempts to interfere further, and we make sure the station is fully protected." Linda nodded slowly, clearly impressed. "I can see why I trusted you last night. Humans are remarkable when they pay attention." Jack smiled faintly. "We have to be. The universe doesn't wait for anyone." The night deepened and the station grew quieter. Jack continued to move through corridors, inspecting systems, checking logs, and observing patterns. Karen and Varro worked diligently, reporting every small anomaly. Together, they began to map the interference, identifying weak points and potential targets. Jack paused near the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He thought about humans and their place in the galaxy. Small, fragile, underestimated by many, but resilient, adaptable, and determined. Traits that made them survive, thrive, and overcome challenges others considered impossible. A new alert flashed on the monitors, a minor spike in energy near the secondary docking bay. Jack's instincts kicked in immediately. "Karen, Varro, check the secondary bay. I'm going to inspect it in person." He moved quickly, reaching the bay in minutes. The lights flickered slightly as he approached. His hand hovered over a maintenance panel, sensing the energy pulse again. He opened the panel carefully, revealing another small device, similar to the first but slightly more advanced. Jack's eyes narrowed. Whoever was behind this was escalating. They were testing the station's defenses, and now they were trying more sophisticated methods. But Jack was ready. He disarmed the device and secured it in the containment unit. Back in the monitoring room, he analyzed the new device. It was a tracking and interference unit, designed to manipulate multiple systems simultaneously. The level of technology was impressive, but not enough to defeat human ingenuity. Linda appeared again, watching him work. "Jack, this is serious. Whoever is doing this is not just curious. They're testing our limits." Jack nodded. "I know, and that's why humans are here. We notice what others overlook. We adapt faster. We act before small problems become disasters. This is exactly what we were made for." He continued to analyze the patterns late into the night. Every spike, every flicker, every anomaly was recorded. He began to anticipate the next moves of the unknown intruder, predicting where they would interfere next. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, and that was their advantage. By dawn, Jack had mapped the anomalies, secured the devices, and reinforced the weak points in the station. Karen and Varro were exhausted but proud of their work. Jack stood in the observation deck, looking out at the slowly rising sun over Earth. He felt a quiet satisfaction. Humans were underestimated, yes, but underestimated humans could do extraordinary things. They survived where others failed. They adapted when situations changed, and they acted when others hesitated. Jack knew this was just the beginning. The intruder had revealed their intelligence and patience, but they had also revealed a weakness. They did not expect humans to notice, to adapt, to act. And Jack Miller was ready. The station's lights glowed softly as Jack Miller walked down the long corridors of Titanes. Every panel, every conduit, every screen he passed was under his watchful eyes. Last night had been a success. They had discovered the hidden devices and tracked their patterns, but Jack knew the intruder would not give up easily. Whoever was probing the station had intelligence, patience, and technology far beyond ordinary. But Jack also knew humans had something the intruder had not counted on: instinct, resilience, and the ability to act quickly. He stopped at the monitoring room where Karen and Voro were already at work. The two had been running shifts, monitoring energy flows and checking system logs for any irregularity. Jack nodded at them. "Any changes?" he asked. Karen shook her head. "Nothing yet, Jack. But we've reinforced the secondary docking bay. No more anomalies there so far." Voro's multiple eyes blinked in unison. "We have monitored the primary conduits and energy grids. No new activity detected." Jack smiled faintly. "Good, but that doesn't mean the threat is gone. Whoever is behind this is patient. They will test us again, and when they do, we need to be ready." He turned and moved toward the station's control center. The room was quiet, filled with the soft hum of computers and the low vibration of the station's engines. Jack tapped a few keys, bringing up a holographic display of the entire station. Energy flows, life support systems, docking bays, and communications lines appeared as glowing lines. He highlighted the areas where the anomalies had been detected. "Karen, Voro, I want to run a simulation," Jack said. "We need to anticipate the next moves of the intruder. If they try to interfere again, we need to be prepared to counter them immediately." Karen's fingers flew over her console. "Running the simulation now." Voro's voice was calm but serious. "We will compare previous anomalies to potential targets. It will take a few minutes." Jack leaned back, watching the patterns form on the display. He noticed subtle correlations between energy spikes, communication delays, and life support fluctuations. The intruder had been testing the station systematically, sector by sector, to learn how humans responded. But humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and observant. Jack could see patterns the intruder had not accounted for. "Here," Jack said, pointing to a cluster of minor anomalies near the observation deck and command hub. "If they try to interfere again, it will likely be here next." "They want maximum impact and these systems are critical." Karen nodded. "We can reinforce those sectors, adjust power flows, add redundancy, and monitor for any hidden devices." Voro added, "We can also create a decoy signal. If the intruder detects it, they may attempt to interact with it, giving us a chance to trace them directly." Jack's eyes lit up. "Exactly. Humans are not only reactive, we can be proactive. Let's set up the decoy and reinforce the systems. If they test us again, we'll be ready, and we'll turn their intelligence against them." Over the next few hours, the team worked tirelessly. Jack coordinated the reinforcements, checked the redundancy and life support, monitored the energy flows, and ensured the communications network was secure. Karen and Voro implemented the decoy signal, carefully designing it to look like a vulnerable system without compromising the station's actual operations. By nightfall, the station was prepared. Every conduit, panel, and console was under surveillance. Jack walked through the corridors, checking for any subtle signs of tampering. He could feel the station's pulse, each vibration, each hum. Humans were sensitive to small changes, and he trusted his instincts. "Jack," Karen said, coming up beside him, "the decoy is live. Any interference will be traced automatically." "Good," Jack replied. "Remember, whoever is doing this is smart. They will look for patterns and weaknesses. We have to be smarter, faster, observant." Voro added, "We are ready. The intruder will not catch us off guard this time." Hours passed in tense silence. Jack moved through the corridors, inspecting maintenance panels and checking sensor arrays. Every few minutes, he returned to the monitoring room to review the logs. The station was calm, but he could feel the underlying tension. The intruder was intelligent and they would act soon. Then just past midnight, a subtle pulse ran through the primary energy grid. Jack's eyes narrowed. "Here it comes," he whispered. Karen immediately checked the logs. "Energy spike in Sector 7. It's subtle but deliberate." Varro's many eyes focused on the display. "The intruder is testing our response. They want to see if we detect them." Jack moved quickly, his mind sharp. "Activate the decoy. Redirect all minor power fluctuations to it. Let them interact with it while we trace the signal." Karen and Varro worked swiftly. The decoy activated, appearing as a vulnerable system. Jack watched the monitors, tracking every pulse, every signal. Within minutes, the intruder took the bait. Their interference focused on the decoy system, and Jack traced the energy signature. "There," he said. "We have a location. It's coming from a small ship docked at the secondary bay." Linda Harper appeared at the monitoring room door, looking both concerned and impressed. "Jack, are you sure?" Jack nodded. "Positive. They underestimated humans. They thought subtlety would keep them hidden, but humans notice things others miss. Now we know where they are." He quickly organized a response team. Karen and Varro would monitor the systems while Jack approached the secondary bay. He moved carefully, each step measured, his senses alert. The station's corridors were quiet, the hum of the engine steady but tense. Every panel, every conduit, every shadow was under his observation. When Jack reached the secondary bay, he saw the small ship. It was sleek, almost alien in design, with no visible markings. He approached cautiously, using his training to observe for traps or hidden devices. His instincts told him that the intruder had planned this carefully, but they had overlooked the human capacity for observation. Jack opened the access panel near the docking clamps. Inside, he found another device, more sophisticated than the previous ones. It was designed to interface directly with the station systems, bypassing normal protocols. He studied it carefully, noting the wires, sensors, and energy flows. "This is clever," he muttered, "but not clever enough." He disconnected the device, carefully avoiding triggering any alarms or secondary functions. Karen and Varro confirmed that all systems remained stable. Jack secured the device in the containment unit, then examined the ship's exterior. There were no visible signs of life inside, suggesting it was an automated probe or drone. Jack's mind raced. Whoever sent this device was gathering intelligence, testing weaknesses, and learning about the station's defenses. But they had made a critical mistake. They had not accounted for a human noticing the subtle patterns, reacting to them, and turning their actions against them. Back in the monitoring room, Jack analyzed the device. It was advanced, capable of manipulating multiple systems simultaneously, but it lacked the adaptability of a human operator. He smiled faintly. Humans had something no machine could replicate: instinct, intuition, and the ability to act creatively in unpredictable situations. Linda Harper watched him quietly. "Jack, humans are underestimated in the galaxy, but tonight you've proven why they are invaluable." Jack nodded. "We survive, we adapt, and we act. That's why humans are never truly predictable. That's why the universe underestimates us at their own risk." Over the next several hours, Jack, Karen, and Varro reinforced the station's systems further. They anticipated potential interference points, added redundancies, and monitored every signal. The intruder had revealed their intelligence and patience, but they had also revealed a weakness. They did not account for human observation and creativity. As the artificial sun began to rise over Titani's station, Jack stood by the observation deck, looking out at Earth. The blue and green planet was peaceful, but he knew that vigilance was never-ending. The intruder had tested them, but the humans had adapted. They had acted, and they had prevailed. Jack felt a quiet pride. Humans were underestimated, yes. But underestimated humans could see patterns others missed, adapt faster than expected, and act when others hesitated. Tonight, the intruder had learned that lesson the hard way. He turned to Linda. "This is just the beginning. Whoever is behind this will escalate, but we'll be ready. Humans always are." Linda smiled, a mixture of relief and respect in her eyes. "I believe you, Jack, I truly do." Jack watched the stars beyond the station, their light stretching into infinity. He knew challenges would continue, threats would grow, and the unknown would always test them. But humans had a way of surviving, adapting, and overcoming. And as long as humans were on Titani's station, no threat, no matter how clever or patient, would go unnoticed for long. Tonight, humans had proven their value once again, and Jack Miller was ready for whatever came next. The station was quiet, but Jack Miller knew better than to trust silence. Titani's hummed beneath his feet, the steady vibrations a reminder that life aboard the station never truly stopped. Over the past days, he had discovered the intruder's devices, traced their patterns, and reinforced the systems. Karen and Voro had worked tirelessly, monitoring, analyzing, and helping him prepare. Yet Jack knew that the intelligence behind these attacks was patient and careful. They would not stop until they were fully satisfied. Jack walked through the corridor to the observation deck, where he could see the stars stretching endlessly beyond the station's windows. Earth rotated slowly below, blue oceans and green landmasses bathed in sunlight. It was peaceful from this distance, but he knew the calm could not last forever. The intruder had shown cleverness, but humans had something no machine or alien could predict: the ability to connect small clues, notice subtle patterns, and act decisively. He checked his tablet again. Energy fluctuations had returned, faint but deliberate, and this time they were more synchronized than before. The intruder was escalating, attempting a coordinated interference across multiple sectors of the station. Jack's instincts told him that this was their final test. They were trying to see if humans could respond under pressure. "Jack," Karen's voice came through the communicator, "we're detecting interference in the docking bays and the life support conduits simultaneously. It's stronger than before." "I see it," Jack said. "Stay calm and focus on monitoring. Varro, reinforce the secondary conduits. I'll handle the primary systems." Jack moved quickly through the corridors, checking panels and sensors as he went. The energy spikes were subtle but connected, forming a web across the station. Whoever was behind this was sophisticated and patient, but they had underestimated human perception. Jack could see the pattern forming in real time. He could anticipate the next moves. He reached the primary control hub and began rerouting power flows, adding redundancies to life support and monitoring communications. Karen and Voro coordinated with him, confirming every adjustment. Jack's mind raced, thinking ahead, predicting how the intruder would react. Then, the devices activated simultaneously, sending energy pulses into multiple systems. The station's lights flickered, alarms sounded faintly, and minor disruptions appeared across the consoles. The intruder had launched their most complex interference yet. Jack's hands moved quickly over the controls, isolating the affected systems and activating the decoy signal he had set up earlier. The intruder took the bait, focusing on the false vulnerability while Jack traced their energy signature to its source. "There," he shouted. "The intruder is aboard an unmanned probe in Docking Bay 3. It's fully automated, but the signals are coming from a ship outside the station, probably orbiting nearby. They want information, but they don't know we're tracking them." Karen's fingers flew over her console. "I'm ready to isolate all connections from that probe. Voro is monitoring the energy flux." Jack smiled faintly. "Good. Let's make sure they can't interfere again." He activated the containment protocols, isolating the probe's connection to the station's systems. Energy pulses faded, lights stabilized, and alarms returned to normal. The probe remained in Docking Bay 3, its sleek alien design reflecting the lights above. Jack approached cautiously, inspecting its exterior. There were no signs of life inside, confirming it was fully automated. He examined the connection ports and energy conduits, noting the clever design that allowed it to interface directly with the station. "This is advanced technology," Jack muttered. "But it's no match for human observation and quick action." Linda Harper appeared in the control hub, watching him. "Jack, that was incredible. You not only identified the interference, but you neutralized it without causing damage to the station." "I've never seen anyone respond so calmly and efficiently under pressure." Jack shrugged. "It's what humans do. We notice things others ignore, we connect the dots, and we act before problems get out of control. That's why we survive, even in situations that seem impossible." Linda nodded, clearly impressed. "And that's why I trust you with this station. You've proven humans are invaluable, even against threats far beyond what we normally face." Jack returned to the monitoring room to review the probe's data. The logs showed every attempt to interfere with systems, every energy spike, and every test it had conducted. Whoever had sent this probe had been gathering intelligence, but Jack realized they had underestimated the human mind. The subtle clues, the patterns in the energy pulses, and the repeated probes had all been used against them. He smiled faintly. Humans were underestimated, yes, but underestimated humans could see the hidden, notice the subtle, and act decisively. "Karen Voro," he said, "let's finish analyzing the probe. We need to understand what they were after and how they tried to manipulate our systems. This is valuable intelligence." The two nodded, diving back into their consoles. Jack watched the display, tracing energy flows, life support adjustments, and communication delays. Every small action the intruder had taken revealed something about their technology and strategy. Humans could learn from it, adapt to it, and be ready for future encounters. Hours passed as they worked, analyzing every detail. The probe had been designed to test weaknesses, gather data, and map the station's responses, but it had failed to account for human ingenuity. Jack realized that this was the key to humanity's advantage in the galaxy: adaptability. As the artificial sun in the station's orbit began to rise, Jack and his team completed their analysis. They had mapped the intruder's methods, isolated their devices, and ensured the station's systems were secure. The intruder had been patient, clever, and relentless, but they had underestimated humans. Linda appeared beside Jack again. "You've done it," she said softly. "You've shown that humans are not only capable but essential in situations like this. I never fully appreciated it until now." Jack nodded. "We survive where others fail. We notice what others miss. We act when others hesitate. That's what makes humans remarkable." Linda smiled faintly. "And that's why I trust you, Jack. I believe in humans more than ever." Jack looked out at the stars beyond the observation deck. The probe had been neutralized, but the galaxy was vast, full of unknown threats and unseen dangers. Yet he felt no fear. Humans had a unique strength: the ability to perceive, adapt, and act when situations demanded it. No machine, no alien, no threat could fully predict or counter that strength. He turned to Karen and Voro. "We've learned from this. Every detail, every anomaly, every pattern, remember it. Humans are underestimated, yes, but that underestimation is our advantage. We will be ready next time, whatever it may be." Karen nodded, her eyes bright with determination. "Understood, Jack." Humans notice, humans act, humans survive. Voro's many eyes blinked rapidly. "And humans adapt. That is a lesson the intruder has learned tonight." Jack smiled faintly. "Exactly, and it's a lesson they will not forget." The station systems were now fully secure. Energy flows were stable, life support was operating smoothly, and communication lines were clear. The probe, isolated and analyzed, had provided valuable intelligence. Jack felt a quiet satisfaction. Humans had proven their worth, not through force or technology alone, but through observation, intuition, and adaptability. Linda watched him quietly. "Jack, you've done more than protect the station. You've shown what humans can do." "I think the galaxy will learn this sooner or later," Jack nodded, looking out at Earth below. "Humans have survived the impossible before. We will do it again, and we will continue to adapt, to notice, and to act. That's who we are." He turned back to the monitoring room, reviewing the final logs from the probe. Every interference attempt, every subtle manipulation, had been catalogued. Jack realized that the intruder had tried to test the limits of human perception, but they had failed. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and resilient. That was why they survived. That was why they thrived. Karen and Voro joined him at the observation deck. "So," Karen said, "what now?" Jack smiled faintly. "Now we remain vigilant. We learn from this experience. The intruder may try again, or another threat may appear, but we'll be ready. Humans notice. Humans act. Humans survive." Voro nodded. "And humans adapt. That is a quality no machine or alien can fully anticipate." Jack's gaze returned to the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and unseen challenges. Yet he felt a quiet confidence. Humans had survived countless threats, adapted to impossible situations, and overcome challenges others deemed insurmountable. Tonight, humans had proven once again why they were not to be underestimated. They had observed, adapted, and acted decisively. They had turned the intruder's intelligence against them and secured the station. And Jack Miller knew that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons, technology, or numbers, but in their ability to notice the subtle, adapt quickly, and act with precision when it mattered most. As the light from Titanes' artificial sun spread across the station, Jack felt a sense of calm. The immediate threat had passed, but the lesson remained clear. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that underestimation was a gift. It allowed them to act when others hesitated, to notice what others overlooked, and to survive when others failed. Jack turned to Linda. "We've won tonight, but tomorrow is another day. We'll stay vigilant." "Humans always do," Linda smiled. "And that is why I trust you, Jack. I truly believe humans can handle anything the galaxy throws at them." Jack looked back at the stars, feeling the steady hum of Titanes beneath his feet. The probe was neutralized, the station secure, and humans had once again proven their worth. He knew that challenges would come, threats would rise, and the unknown would always test them. But humans had a way of noticing the subtle, adapting quickly, and acting decisively. And as long as humans were watching, learning, and acting, no threat could fully defeat them. Jack Miller smiled faintly, feeling a quiet pride. Humans survived, humans adapted, humans acted, and the galaxy had learned a lesson they would not forget.